Ambulance arrived at Kigali Central Hospital and nurses rushed out with stretchers. Inside the compound, the scene had been confusing, but in the hospital, it became a full-blown spectacle. Neighbors had followed the ambulance on borders, chattering loudly, and by the time Mugisha, his boss, his colleagues, and Mama Mugisha were rolled in, there were already over 50 people gathered at the emergency entrance, whispering like bees in a hive. "Hey, you see how they were snoring like cows?" one man told the crowd, shaking his head. "I think she cooked the beans with juju." Another person added quickly, "No, this is not ordinary juju. This is Kigali version of Sleeping Beauty. How can all of them collapse together?" Inside the hospital, the doctors and nurses worked frantically, giving IV drips and running quick tests. Claudine, who had been forced to wait outside, was pacing the hallway, pulling her wig and biting her nails until her red lipstick smeared across her face. She kept shouting, "Doctor, please tell me it's not poison. It was just beans. I swear it was just beans." Finally, after 2 hours of panic, the family doctor, Mr. Musoni, stepped out holding a clipboard. The entire hallway went silent as if someone pressed a pause button. He cleared his throat slowly and said, "They are stable. Nobody has died. But I need to ask, who cooked the beans they ate?" Everyone turned to Claudine. She raised her trembling hand like a guilty schoolgirl. "Me, doctor, it was me." The doctor adjusted his glasses, looking both shocked and amused. "Then, can you explain why the beans contained paracetamol powder?" The crowd gasped in unison. "Paracetamol?" Mama Keza, who had followed from the compound, clapped her hands loudly. "I said it! So she's cooking medicine instead of food?" Claudine's legs nearly gave way. She opened her mouth to explain, but nothing came out. She stammered, I just wanted to cook faster." She rushed into the ward and heaved a sigh of relief when she saw the sleeping people already awake on their beds. Mugisha sat up weakly but angrily. "Claudine, are you mad? You cooked beans with medicine. You nearly killed my boss, my colleagues, my own mother, all because you are too lazy to cook properly." His boss, who was still dizzy but conscious, groaned from the next boss. "Mugisha, if I lose my memory because of your wife's pharmacy beans, you will lose your job." Mama Mugisha held her IV up dramatically and tried to rise, shouting, "I warned you. This girl was never a wife material. Look at me, a whole mother-in-law nearly buried because of beans and tablets." The nurses rushed to push her back down, but she refused, pointing at Claudine with shaking hands. "What's a Claudine? You want to inherit my son early, eh? You want to kill us one by one until only you remain to chop life?" Outside, the gossip exploded. The news traveled so fast that by morning, Kigali WhatsApp groups were flooded with memes. Some called it the Great Beans Massacre. Others nicknamed Claudine Madam Pharmacy Kitchen. When Claudine heard the mockery, she covered her face with her scarf and sighed, "Oh God, this is the end of me." But the humiliation was just beginning. By the time Mugisha's extended family arrived at the hospital, the corridor turned into a theater of blame. Aunties pointed fingers, uncles shouted, and one elder uncle even said, "This is not a wife, this is an assassin in high heels." Claudine tried to defend herself. "I only saw it on social media. They said paracetamol makes beans soft." Immediately, Mama Mugisha clapped her hands loudly. "So because strangers on TikTok told you, you will use us as experiments? Are we goats? Are we laboratory rats?" The entire ward erupted in laughter mixed with anger. Even the patients in nearby beds turned to watch the drama. The following night, when the family was finally discharged, Mugisha refused to speak to Claudine on the way home. He walked ahead stiffly with his hands in his pockets, while Claudine followed behind with swollen eyes. Neighbors lined up by the compound gate, pretending to sweep or fetch water just to watch their return. One man whispered loudly, "Is this not the Beans medicine wife?" Another one said, "Yes, so that is her. Be careful. Don't eat anything she gives you. Even her chewing gum may contain injections." The compound burst into laughter. Claudine rushed inside humiliated, while Mugisha stood at the door and said coldly, "From today, I don't want to smell beans in this house again." By Monday morning, the news had spread across Kigali faster than a border on a downhill slope. By midday, it had reached shops, offices, and even churches. Claudine's paracetamol beans was no longer a family secret. It had become a public scandal. Everywhere Mugisha went, people gave him pitying looks. At the office, two colleagues whispered loudly, making sure he could hear. "Hey, my brother, you are lucky you are still alive," one said. The other one shook his head dramatically. "If my wife cooked beans with Panadol, I would call the police immediately. That is attempted murder." Even Mugisha's boss, Mr. Ndaishimiye, who had collapsed into his beans bowl, avoided eye contact. When he finally spoke, his words were blunt. "Mugisha, you must control your house. If you cannot survive your wife's cooking, how will you survive in a management position?" Mugisha felt his heart sink. He realized that what Claudine had done was not just foolishness, it had endangered his career. Back at home, things were worse. Mama Mugisha had not calmed down since the hospital incident. She spent the entire day moving from one neighbor's veranda to another, retelling the story with more spice each time. "Do you know I nearly died in my son's house?" she announced loudly under a mango tree where 5 women gathered. "This girl cooked beans with paracetamol. Yes, when I opened my eyes in the hospital, I thought I was already in heaven." The women gasped, then burst into laughter. One added, "Ah, this Uwase is something else. Next time, she will cook stew with cough syrup." By evening, the whole compound had given Claudine new nicknames: Madam Pharmacy Beans, Nurse Without License, and Doctor of Sleeping Kitchen. Claudine tried to act as if she didn't care, but deep inside, she was burning with shame. Every time she went to buy tomatoes at the roadside stall, the sellers would cover their mouths to hide their laughter. One nosy man even said, "Madam, should I add Panadol to the onions for you?" And then, on Wednesday night, Mugisha called a family meeting. He sat stiffly on the sofa. His face was serious, while Claudine sat opposite him, twisting her wrapper nervously. Mama Mugisha sat in the middle, fanning herself dramatically. Mugisha began, "Claudine, I gave you one simple responsibility: to cook for the family. Instead, you nearly killed us. I lost respect at work. My boss is angry, and now the whole city is laughing at me." Claudine tried to interrupt. Her voice was trembling. "Baby, I am sorry. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. I only wanted to cook faster." Mama Mugisha slapped her thighs and shouted, "Shut up! Do you think marriage is TikTok? Cooking is patience. Beans is patience. You wanted soft life. Now see your life." Tears filled Claudine's eyes. "Mama, please, forgive me." "Forgive you?" Mama Claudine pointed at her dramatically. "If you want fast food, buy chapati on the street. Don't turn your husband's house into a pharmacy." Unfortunately, the gossip continued to spread outside the house. One evening, Mugisha returned from work to find a small crowd gathered at the compound gate, laughing loudly as a storyteller acted out the dinner scene. Then the boss put spoon in his mouth and bam, he started snoring. The man said, falling to the ground for dramatic effects. The crowd roared with laughter. When they saw Mugisha approaching, they scattered like guilty children, leaving him fuming with embarrassment. Inside, Claudine was lying on the couch. Her face was swollen from crying. She sat up quickly, hoping to apologize again, but Mugisha raised his hand. "Enough, Claudine. From today, you will not cook at all in this house until I say so. Even if it is boiling water, Aline will handle it." Claudine's lips trembled. "So you don't trust me anymore?" He looked at her coldly. "Trust you? Claudine, you turned a simple dinner into hospital admission. If I trust you again. I will die young. That night, Claudine lay awake, staring at the ceiling and replaying every moment. She thought about the video that misled her, about how confident she had felt, and about how quickly her confidence had turned into public disgrace. She had bruised her husband's pride, destroyed her reputation, and become an object of mockery in Kigali. And she didn't know when it would end, because just the previous day, she had gone to the market when a pepper seller shouted, "Madam Pharmacy, do you want pepper or Panadol?" The next day, Aline, the maid, prepared every meal while Claudine sat in a corner of the living room, pretending to read a magazine she didn't understand. One night, Mugisha finally broke the silence. "Claudine, I need space. I cannot breathe in this house anymore. Everywhere I turn, I remember that disgrace." Claudine's heart dropped. "What are you saying?" "I am moving to my brother's house for now," he said. "I need peace. My boss almost sacked me because of you. The whole neighborhood still mocks me. You don't understand what you have done." Claudine grabbed his hand and begged, "Mugisha, please, don't go. I will change, I promise. No more shortcuts, no more experiments." But he turned away coldly. "It is too late. I don't trust you again." With that, he walked out, leaving Claudine crumpled on the floor and hugging the pillow as if it could stop her world from falling apart. The next Sunday at church, the humiliation reached its peak. Claudine entered quietly, covering her head with a scarf, hoping to blend into the crowd. But halfway through the sermon, the pastor made an announcement. "Brethren, we must pray against ignorance in our homes. We must pray against wives who will turn their husbands into hospital patients with careless experiments." The crowd laughed knowingly and turned to look at Claudine, who wished the ground would open and swallow her. One woman exclaimed loudly, "Amen, Pastor! Deliver our men from paracetamol beans." By the time the service ended, nobody sat near her. Even the women who usually gossiped with her at the back bench kept their distance. And so, Claudine left quickly, burning with shame. At home, things worsened. Mama Mugisha returned from her sister's house dragging a small box. "Claudine, listen to me. I have spoken with the family elders. They say if you don't change, they will advise my son to find peace elsewhere. A woman who cannot cook ordinary beans is a danger to her husband." Claudine fell to her knees, crying uncontrollably. "Mama, please, I beg you. I will never do such a thing again. I was only trying to impress." Mama Mugisha raised her hand dramatically. "Impress who? You nearly impressed us into the grave. You think marriage is comedy skits? No, my daughter, marriage is responsibility." From then on, Claudine became a ghost of herself. She avoided the markets, avoided neighbors, and even avoided phone calls from her family back in Huye. The shame had eaten deep into her bones. But that was not even all. One afternoon, she heard laughter outside the compound and peeped through the window. That was when she saw a new poster plastered on the wall by the gates, created by mischievous neighbors. Public notice: beware, this compound once served beans with paracetamol. Eat at your own risk. Children and passers-by laughed so hard that they rolled on the ground. Claudine sank to the floor, covering her ears. Then, one evening, Mugisha returned briefly with a letter from his office. His face was horrific. "Claudine, I have been demoted. My boss said he cannot trust me to host clients anymore. He said even my house is not safe." Claudine gasped. No, it's my fault. I have destroyed you." Mugisha shook his head sadly. "Not just me. You destroyed us. You turned our name into a joke in the whole city, and now we must carry this cross together." That night, as Claudine lay in bed, she made a vow to herself. "Never again will I follow shortcuts. Never again will I trade patience for anything. I would rather eat raw beans than to cook with poison." Thank you for watching the story. Kindly share your thoughts about the story with me in the comment section. What lessons did you learn from the story? Share the story out with your loved ones and give the story a thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel if you've not done so by now.